Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. I just wanted to quickly say happy Halloween to those that observe it or celebrate it. And here in Chicago today was a very Halloween-like day in terms of the wind. The leaves were all over the place, very windy, very gusty. Really though, it was pretty warm, non-Halloween-like, and it was absolutely beautiful in terms of the skies, not a single cloud. But definitely, the hour clocks are getting moved forward. I think tomorrow or tonight, one hour backwards. So we're falling back, and that is definitely a sign that fall, almost winter is here. So whether you like that or not, it's going to happen for most of the United States. I know there are a few states that don't, I think, do that. But regardless, we are looking at a very strong system, a low pressure that's making its way into the northeast and into southeastern Canada. This thing won't be a classic snowstorm or a rainstorm. It's going to be all over the place. It's more of a convective-filled, snow-showery, rain-showery, snow squalls, rain squall, lake effect snow system. And you'll see what I mean by that. Before we do get further in, if you guys enjoy this channel, if you like anything you see throughout this video, consider checking out the other videos. And if you like them, consider subscribing. And if you are a returning viewer, liking the video would be amazing. So thank you so much if you decided to do so. Let's start off by looking at the HER model. This is a high-resolution rapid refresh, so it's supposedly supposed to be very accurate, and oftentimes it is. It does generally a pretty good job, but it usually goes out to 18 hours. But every 6 hours, 18Z, 12Z, 6Z, and 00Z, so every 6 hours it goes out to 36 hours in forecasting range. And honestly, for being so short range, I would hope for it to be a bit more accurate than it actually is. But definitely, usually my go-to model when it comes to short-range forecasting. So right now, there's not much going on, excluding the fact that very strong winds are occurring across much of the United States, or much of the plains and much of the Midwest. Really, we have several areas where the strong winds are occurring. Here we have some strong winds just south of the low pressure, and then across the Dakotas as well. We have some pretty strong winds. And this will continue the trend, this storm, as it moves into the northeast. The strong winds will maintain. And notice, there's not much precipitation to the southern side, but as this system starts shifting its characteristic features into more of a, again, like a windstorm slash convective-filled system, it goes from a speeding clipper, like we saw this past couple of days, really hours, across Manitoba and Saskatchewan. It dropped quite a bit of snow. Now it starts moving more towards the northeast versus from west to east. And we start seeing rain pushing into portions of Michigan as early as 2, 3 o'clock tonight. Or 2, 3 o'clock, tonight, early Sunday, November 1st. But quickly after that, wind passes, or a little bit of that rain, we start seeing very strong winds. Notice, look at that. The high pressure is not that strong, right? But with the help of two high pressures, did I say high pressure? I meant to say that low pressure isn't awfully that strong. But because of the help from this high pressure and the one right here, the winds are very strong. And this is unfortunate because we often see high pressures spinning, we always see high pressure spinning clockwise. And then we low pressure spinning counterclockwise. So you can see we see an avenue of very strong winds for a large area of the Midwest that normally with a system of this strength wouldn't be seeing such avenues without the help of this high pressure. Same thing with the Northeast. This high pressure is spinning clockwise, and the low pressure is spinning counterclockwise. So again, these winds do counterclockwise, so it speeds it up like this, and that creates an avenue, but instead of flowing from the north and west, this flows from the south and east. These winds, very strong winds, and obviously they change direction based on the positions of the high pressure and the low pressure. And notice that really, that's why this low pressure in the first place changes its position and its track. It's these high pressures that sandwich it. And notice we start seeing snow break out across the UP of Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We see snow moving right north of Lake Superior into Thunder Bay, through St. Marie, seeing some snow as well. And this is where things get interesting. This is early Sunday, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And notice that we start seeing some lake effect, even some potentially significant lake effect showers, combined with the convective energy and strong winds up aloft with this system. you can see that a lot of Michigan gets covered in these showers and storms. And look at this on one portion, getting into portions of Detroit, south central Michigan, even into Indiana, northwestern Ohio. This is at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And notice that some of these colors are pretty dark with those snow squalls. If you look across, let me zoom in on this because this is pretty important, and this is probably the biggest threat with this system, is these squalls. Notice some of them are very dark, like we have one right here. Those could drop visibility really quickly, almost whiteout conditions. They are brief, thankfully, but they could drop, half an inch to an inch of snow if they occur over a long period of time over one area. And that's definitely not good. And that sometimes is underplayed by models or forecasts because it's hard to predict where these will occur. So it's better to predict, oh, there may be a chance, but the possibility is there. But, it's often just said, oh, it's a chance, but you may be within, that small chance that it will occur. And you can see that this is across much of the state. Now, again, not all of the state will be seeing insanely heavy whiteout conditions. Sorry about that. With these squalls, right? But a lot of the state will be seeing some light snow, and that still will be a disturbance across, travel, traffic, all of that good stuff. But where the areas of heavy snow do line up, that will definitely cause a disturbance. Notice that the lake effect, the huge plumes of moisture continue into much of Michigan. Some areas, again, if this continues over an extended period of time, could get pretty high amounts. This moves into much of Ohio, Pennsylvania. Again, oftentimes these type of convective storms are very heavily underplayed by models, especially this HERD model. It often underplays precipitation in general. But notice on the warmer side, the west side of the storm, southeast side, we see lots of rain and very, very warm air compared to what's down here. And notice that as the storm pushes, we see the moisture stream to the north, and this is where our forecast ends. We see a huge, even some connecting streams of moisture from Lake Huron into Lake Erie, and then possibly pushing into Pennsylvania. So they're definitely concerning. But what we see here, it could be the second phase of the storm. Let's look at the total snowfall based on this HERD model. And again, where this snow falls over one period of time, over a longer period, look at that. Portions of certain counties, again, where this exactly lines up is almost impossible. It's like searching for a needle in a haystack. This may be a bit to the left, to the north, to the west, to the east, to the south. And this may be heavier or lighter than shown, but the potential is there. You could see right there, almost half an inch, and then in that little purple we could be seeing 4 or 5 inches, and you can see the same thing is shown across southeastern Canada into portions of near Toronto. And this is not the end of the storm. Notice same features across Ohio, Pennsylvania, maybe a bit underdone across these locations, and a little bit of lake effect right off of Lake Ontario. Let's see what the longer range high resolution model has to show, the NAM 3KM. You can see this one goes a bit more heavier on the snow amount. Now I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, as this storm looks to have a lot of energy and looks to be extremely well organized in terms of its features up aloft in the atmosphere. So some heavier amounts may be widespread, and again, what I mentioned earlier, a lot of the high resolution models, like the HERD model, underplay a lot of these snow squall like scenarios, or just generally precip. This is the NAM 3KM, so notice it includes some pretty heavy snow shower activity, like weather across the northeast. And I think I went on the wrong one, because I always get confused with this. There's one that's always better than the other. This one is the better one, as that one shows a bit more drastic features and is usually just a bit worse. This model, the NAM 3KM, near surface reflectivity, gives a better view. What's a more realistic view. And notice that while we have a lot of squalls and rain shower or snow showers occurring across Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, the western Great Lakes region and the eastern Great Lakes region, as the storm slides further and further to the east, we also see a huge plume of moisture developing across much of the northeast, and this comes directly off the ocean. Lots of tropics are still warm. The oceans are relatively warm for this time of the year. And notice there's a lot of heavy precipitation that's available, and some of the models, this model does show a bit of that precipitation forming over into snow transitioning, but some models like the European show significant amounts of snow possibly, and a full-fledged blizzard just north of Maine and into southeastern Canada. You can see Quebec is centered right on the mouth of the St. Lawrence River right there when it transitions into the bay, which again then flows out into the ocean. So whether or not this goes a little bit further to the north or south will depend on the track of the system, and each model shows a different track. But you can see that snowfall rates will be heavy, and maybe even a secondary little clipper following that, which more and more models have started to show. But in terms of the total snowfall extended, you can see that the amounts do increase quite drastically across the Northeast. Now again, this isn't a blockbuster snowstorm, and you wouldn't see one typically in late October, early November. Those typically occur later on during the winter, but it's still a pretty high potential for some high amounts. I mean, look at that one little area right there in Vermont. We see locations pushing into the plus 1.5 plus range, so 18 inches plus. And let me show you some of the more longer range models, less high resolution. You can see that the GFS does show a general mention of that snow, and you can see it includes that second wave right there. So let's just go to the surface and precip radar / frozen, and we would notice that we have the snow squalls, right? All the rain showers. Again, this one is way more widespread in terms of the area coverage because this is a longer range model. It's not high res. But notice it does include that plume, definitely less significant than, say, what the European shows, which I'll show you next. But again, we have that second wave of precip pushing into much of Boston, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York into Maine. And if we were to look at the European, which I've been talking about, mentioned several times throughout this video, you can see that this system being squished by these two high pressures becomes forced to go to the north and east versus just east. And so it takes that unique track, and obviously the winds are going to be heavy and strong on both sides, with a lot of that squally type weather occurring across the lakes, and lots of precipitation with the European. And this eventually does turn into snow as it rides into the colder air. And look at that. Quebec could be caught under some pretty strong snow, some heavy snow amounts, and of course the winds. Some blizzard-like conditions not out of the question. 971, that's a very strong low pressure, and this rides up to the north and into southeastern Canada and provides quite a dumping of snowfall across those locations. And this is just a brief run into the future. You can see that the models do keep this active, including really all of them, including the European. You can see we have a storm system at around late next week, Monday, or late next week. We could be looking at a pretty large beast forming across the west. That's still far out, but the models have been consistent. However, between that time, it looks very warm and peaceful across the United States for the first full week of November. I would like to look at the Canadian model and show you what those what that model is showing. And let's go to the CMC. Generally, Canadians showing similar to what the GFS is showing. Notice that we have that storm system riding through, and it does show quite a bit of that snow with that second wave, if you will, a second phase of the storm. More than what the GFS shows, but less than the European. And that rides into southeastern Canada, and we do have that potential second wave still kind of flirting into portions of the Northeast when it comes to Tuesday and Wednesday. For the exact timing, you should definitely refer to the National Weather Service. You can see that'll be affecting the eastern Great Lakes into tomorrow and Sunday, and move into the Northeast, and today and Sunday, and then move into the Northeast on Monday and Tuesday, affecting locations across southeastern Canada well into Wednesday. And if we were to look at the southeastern Canadian view, we would definitely see that trend. You can see the Canadian does put out a pretty large system across Labrador, Newfoundland, maybe parts of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Quebec, and quite a bit of heavy snow. Again, the models really seem to crank out the snow across those locations, including the European. This is in centimeters, so this is a bit more, if you will, than what the other models would show in inches. Obviously, the coloring is off, but the amounts are the same if you do the conversion. 31 inches, 30 inches, foot and a half of snow across those locations, so still significant. And I would show you that with the European, however, it does cut it off. But you could still see that this develops into a pretty significant system. And from the European standpoint, in terms of snowfall, we could still see a good gathering, and you can see still quite a bit to go across Ontario, or most of this probably has fallen since this was the noon model run. It is now 7 o'clock Eastern or Central Standard Time, and you can see this may be again underplayed significantly, especially these locations, because of this being a long range model. But parts of these Northeast, again, could be seeing 4 to 5 to 6 inches of snow, if definitely not more. And then as we push into the long range, we definitely see increased snow threat, and even across portions of the plains. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you all guys on the next episode. Stay safe, and don't venture out too much this weekend if you live across the Northeast, as really the weather won't be the most pleasant. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.